Hello YouTube. Today we're going to be covering installing software via apt and covering how the main Debian software repository works, along with adding some of our own repositories to install some third-party software, and finally start setting up sort of like a dev environment properly. So the first thing we want to look at is how the sources sources.list is composed. That will help us like understand the documentation a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is just literally just show that on the screen. It's the easiest way. We're just going to do nano etc apt sources to list, and this is the main sources list that comes with the operating system. And this has this is the sources file. There is a man page for this. However, we're just going to talk you through it. So basically, this is the has, if we look at it, it has deb source, a URL, bookworm, and main. And the URL is http debian.org/debian and the debian.source. Now, the Debian sources are the source packages, and these actually are what's used to actually build the binary that you typically download. And it has both listed here. And then you have the security repository and an updates repository. So this is bookworm updates. And you can add backports. We'll go over that in a later video. But I won't go over it here because it will confuse the matter. So we've got these, and we only have one software component, so repository component enabled, which is main. So if you look on this page here, we've got some. There are 3 others that you can enable. So there's contrib, non-free, and non-free firmware. And non-free firmware I mentioned in the previous video, and it's that's just really what it says. The section is restricted to device firmware, while packages area basically have the same underlying license restrictions as those in non-free. A special exception has been made for them, even if not being DFSG free. Packages from the non-free firmware are allowed to be included in the official installation images. So I briefly mentioned this. Non-free firmware is essentially there is device hardware that will not work if you don't have this firmware. So if you install it on your laptop, your wireless driver will probably not work correctly unless it has this non-free firmware component. And this is basically a compromise Debian has made because it's a lot of hardware now has this non-free firmware component that is required for the drive to run correctly. And without them like reverse engineering the firmware, there's really no way to get around this and have fully operational hardware. And this is just a sort of like a compromise. I don't think it's enabled here because I'm in a VM essentially. And the second one is non-free. Packages area has some onerous license condition restricting the use or redistribution of this software. There are stuff in the non-free section that you probably want to install. So I'm pretty sure you can install Steam, and we'll go install Steam in a sec through that. And contrary, packages area are freely licensed by the copyright holder, but depend on other software that's not free. So this will be, I think, so there's plugins for Nautilus by Dropbox. Dropbox itself isn't free, but the plugin for Nautilus is probably open source. So That's probably where packages like that come in. And so what we're going to do, we're going to enable, I want to enable pretty much both of these. I don't really care whether something is proprietary or not, as long as it's as essentially as long as it's essentially not spyware, um, or as long as it's kind of like useful. I'm not a free software open source fundamentalist. I'll use whatever's useful as long as it's the program isn't too you know crappy essentially. So I'm going to close this and I'm going to do it. I don't like manually editing a lot of these text files because especially on this because I've made mistakes and whatever. There's quick ways of doing this as well. However, I'm going to do let's show you the way I do it. So I add a package that installs another, like essentially a Python script. I think it's software properties, and we're going to install software properties common. And what I think this should do. All right, so at what was it? Add. Yeah, so yeah, so now we've got sudo add. I must have already installed it, or it already comes installed. It usually doesn't, I'm sure, but it seems to have been already installed, so don't have to install it, so that's good. So we do add app repository, contrib. Oh, and I have to do sudo. And it says here adding component contrib to all repositories. So press enter. And this, I think, we'll just do a sudo apt update afterwards. So what we'll do is we'll just go and have a look at that sources list. You can see that contrib has been added. We exit that. We're also going to do non-free. And you just press enter. So it says adding components, non-free to all repositories. Press enter to continue. We want to continue. And it will get there eventually, hopefully. Yep, so it's doing an update again. And if we just have a look back at this, you see it's added the non-free. Now, I think I should be able to install Steam now. So if I do apt, I don't need to do the sudo on this one. So it's Steam. Was it Steam installer? Yeah, so Valve Steam installer. So let's just install Steam. So typically I'll do game on Linux. So if I was setting up a machine and I'm likely to want to do some gaming on it, I will be installing Steam. So that's just the Steam installer. Sudo apt install. Oh, that's interesting. I haven't enabled the i386 packages. So I need to install the 32-bit Steam libs. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. And we're going to consult Stack Overflow. This is not this thing. Add. What's it? problem solving real time here. Yeah, multi-arts, that's it. Almost forgot what it's called. So we're literally going to do add architecture i386. So it's dpackage sudo dpackage add architecture. So i386. Oh, I misspelled add. And then if we no, packages. Okay. So wait a minute. What's going on with this? What have I not installed? I haven't done an app update. I thought it did that automatically. Yeah. So what I needed to do was do a sudo app update, I'll guess in. And let's see if we can install it now. Yay, there we go. So we'll install Steam. Sometimes it's just best to follow the wiki, eh? So now Steam should be installed. So if I search for this, we've got Steam. And it goes and warns me that's proprietary. It's a bit redundant since I've enabled non-free firmware, but I digress on that. And this literally is just in downloading and installing the client now. Usually doesn't take too long. And all it's doing here is just unpacking. It's probably just downloaded a big zip file. Go Steam now. Should be, yeah, here we go. Not sure what comes up with that. That's it. So Steam's installed. I'm not going to bother signing in and show you how to install Steam because it's, it's Steam. If you're familiar with it, you're familiar with it. Now it does have a note here to install these extra packages. It's probably doesn't hurt to install these, so I would install those. Oh, so what these are, as you shouldn't just install stuff, but I kind of already know what these are. So these are these are Vulkan drivers, essentially, and Mesa for the multi-arch, which is the i386, which is the 32-bit libraries. So I think that it's perfectly fine to install those. Oh, yep, looks like they're already installed. So it probably actually installed them, I would imagine, when it installed Steam. So I think this line in the wiki is redundant, and maybe it's not required anymore. This wiki, this is like an additional wiki, and it's pretty good as a guide, but sometimes a lot of the instructions are for like slightly older versions of Debian, such as Bullseye, and I forget what the one was before Bullseye was. Buster, I think. So sometimes you have to sort of like look at what generally is the process, and then just modify as you go along. So we've got we've been able to essentially add a non-free firmware component. We had to add multi-arch, which is the basically allowing us for the 32-bit stuff. There's some information about that multi-arch. I don't want to get too much into that because it's a massive digression. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually install some dev software. So I like VSCode, and we're just going to go through how to install that. So go to VSCode, just search for it, and we just follow going through. And we'll be able to see what it does. Of course, the cookies message. And you can install a deb just by downloading it. Like a deb archive is just essentially a package that can be installed via apt-get. We're going to show you how to install it on the command line now. So we download a deb by just clicking it, click the download link, and it will do an automatic download. And then we go open, and we've got the code package in download. So if we go cd downloads, and we'll just clear the screen a bit, make this a little bit bigger, and go ls, we can see the code deb in there. And now we want to install this. So you can do apt install, and then it's dot, which just means the current directory, / code. And this will install the basic code. Now it come up with this message. The installer would like to add the Microsoft repository and sign-in key to update VS Code through apt. Add Microsoft app repository for Visual Studio Code. Yes. What we want to do? Now it comes up as this warning. Just ignore that. It will. I'm not. I need to look into what that warning actually is. It doesn't affect anything. So if we go Visual Studio Code, we now have VS Code, and that's installed. That just runs installed, and that's how you install like an individual dev file. Things like text editors, development software are rather installed as an app package. You can install this as a flat package. However, the problem with flat packages is they install like everything. So I only ever use that for things like Discord, Slack, and other software that I can't install easily via apt. So we're going to install some. Before we do that, actually, what we're going to do, we're going to go into the app sources to see what that just did. So if we go apps list.d, and this is a list of additional sources. If we just close the screen, and we'll just minimize this to get the bits and pieces out of the way. So if we do ls in here, we've got VSCode.list. And if we cat that, it should be too big. It has the deb. It has essentially this tells apt-get where to find updates to the Visual Studio Code. And if we go to here, this is an actual URL you can go to, and this is where apt will look. This is where it will basically look and download the software from. So that is now installed. Every time you upgrade the system, it will go and check to see if there's any updates to Visual Studio Code. I saw it will not nag me about them otherwise. One thing I will do though is I will turn off um, the trust window because it's annoying. There we go. And the telemetry off. There we go. Turned all the telemetry off. So that's basically us installed VS Code, and we installed that through the app package, and the app, when we uninstalled it, it installed the relevant repository configuration as well. And typically another thing that you want to install is Node. Like, I'm a web developer, you're not going to be able to do development without Node these days, unfortunately, even with a lot of the problems that Node has. So the way to install Node.js is you go to NodeSource GitHub, and this is a binary distribution. And what we're going to do is follow the instructions. A lot of the time with a lot of this is basically just going through following the instructions. So we're just going to just quickly understand what this repository is. We're just going to read what it says. The repository contains instructions to install the Node, Source, N, Solid, and Node.js binary distributions via RPM and Deb, as well as their setup and support scripts. So this is basically a set of instructions on how to install Node.js, essentially, the Node.js repo. Should probably read this, but I'm not going to go through this. So we're using Debian, so it says Debian and Ubuntu-based distributions. And NodeSource will continue to maintain the following architectures and may add additional ones to the future. So this is the MD64, 64-bit, ARM 32-bit, ARM 64-bit, and this is distro name, and these are the Debian versions. So it's got a compatibility table here. So 1804, none. It seems to be unsupported, or at least with these versions of Node. 18, I think, is the latest, the oldest LTS, so long-term support version of Node. And yeah, same here with Debian 9. I wouldn't expect them to support Debian 9 because I'm getting like, that's probably quite old now. I don't think Debian. I think Debian 9 is end of life this year. I think I could be imagining that. So installation instructions, Deb. This is Node 23. I typically want to install the latest LTS. So we're just going to follow the instructions. So we're just going to do apt curl, and we install curl. Usually this is installed, but this is to make sure it's installed. And what this does is, that's not copied and pasted it correctly, of course not. So paste, there we go. So what this does is they've got a setup script. So this will download the setup script. Failure wrong. Oh, that's because I'm in this directory. Let's try that again. Go ls, it's got no source setup, and you can read this if you want. So let's have a quick look at what it does, because you should actually know what these scripts do. We've got a logger function at the top here. So this is bash script, bin bash. It's got a error handler function. Function checks the OS, and this configures the repo. Look, you can see it's got parts of script here to go and add all the relevant lines to the sources.list file it's going to make. And it's going to add those in that sources.list.d directory that's in etc. So you'll probably need to run this as root. So if you define the Node.js version, and this one is 22.x, I suspect whenever you download any of these scripts, the only real difference is this, the Node version. And so this looks like it just goes and configures the repo and does an apt-get update. And then I suspect configure repo, and that's it. And then you can install Node, I would imagine. So I'm pretty happy with that, what that script does. So we can just exit that. And then we do sudo.e bash NodeSource. I think this does app. Yeah, so this is doing exactly what I expected it to do. Yeah, and then it's got some installation instructions, little message at the end. To install Node.js, run apt-get install Node.js. Why? So that's exactly what we're going to do. Oh, I need to put sudo on the front. And if we do node v, we've got version 22, and I suspect we've got version 10 of npm. So we've got the node and npm installed. So we've got like some basic JavaScript tooling now. The other thing I'm going to install is Go. However, I'm not going to do that in the package manager. I'm going to do that probably in another video. So there's some other stuff I want to install. So, I prefer using the Brave browser. So let's just install the Brave browser. And just before we do that, what we'll do is we'll go into etc and apt sources.list. Oh, .d. There we go. Do ls. Got NodeSource.list. And if we cat that out, so what this has got is the basically what we're just confirming that the script did what we thought it did. What it's done here, it's basically said, it's basically set up our repo for us and added a signing key here. It hasn't done anything, and whenever you do apt-get update, apt-get upgrade, it will go and search for the latest version of Node. Yeah, so I like Brave, so I'm going to install the Brave browser, and the reason I like Brave is because it's got the inbuilt uBlock origin. It hides those annoying cookie notices by default. I know you can install a plugin into Firefox, but it doesn't quite work as well. And the crypto nonsense you can turn off very easily. So we're just going to do Brave browser, and there's a load of ads, of course, for another browser. And we're going to do get Brave, and they've got a script here, but you can install one command, and they got one for Debian, I'm sure. You can install via Flatpak. So we're going to do the Debian Mint Ubuntu installation. And I don't like using these install scripts typically. because I'm not sure what they're doing. And you should always like understand what changes you're making to your system. So we're just going to follow the instructions. So we can see from the instructions, install curl again, because we're going to need to download stuff via the network. And what this does is it looks like it installs a keyring. Okay, that's fine. And then it adds a new, basically adds up a new sources dot a list, a sources list file essentially, and then sudo apt update and the sudo apt install Brave browser. So this is doing exactly what I think it's doing. So we're going to, we don't need to, I think we could just go and copy and paste this in. I think that's safe. Now, if we go Brave, it should be in, there we go. We've got Brave installed. This is the Brave reward stuff, hide. And I want to hide Leo because I've not used their AI nonsense. Skip this, skip. Maybe later. No. And usually I'll just turn all this crap off. So remove that, remove that, remove that. um, I'd like putting this, I like the gradient. That one do. Fits in with the rest of everything else. Got like a nice solid color. Yep, there we go. And then can we, no thanks to the news. I search, and I'm just going to change the search engine. So if you go settings, search. So just go DuckDuckGo. I prefer DuckDuckGo. Brave's fine. They're all pretty much of a much these days. They're not as good as they used to be. It's a lot of SEO spam, but DuckDuckGo seems to be decent. And that's Brave set up. So we've got like an additional browser. We've got Node set up. Can't think. So the next thing I'm probably going to be installing is Go, and we'll sod it. We'll do it now. So Go. So we're just, again, it's 90% of this is just reading and following the instructions. So what we're going to do is install Go next. Download and install Go programming languages. Now, I don't, you can install, okay. Go away. So we're just going to follow the install. So the latest version is 1.2.4. And we don't need to do this because I know we don't have any previous versions. I'm just going to download. Yeah, okay, yeah. So we're gonna go and get this. And we're gonna go back, what is that? Back to the instructions. Is that already downloaded? Oh, that was quick. So we're just gonna CD, we're just gonna clear the screen again, we're gonna CD here. We're just gonna, we actually only really need this bit. However, this is a little bit wrong. That's a file or directory. Oh, it's in downloads. That's why. So we just all this is telling it to do is essentially untar the file to usr.local, which is exactly what we want to do. Permission denied, yes, because I forgot to put sudo. So we do. You need to put sudo in front of it. These instructions are a little bit wrong. And then we need to go to a path variable. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do nano.bash rc. And this is your bash rc file. I'll be covering this in a later video where we set up the rest of our environment. However, for Go, to verify this works, we need to set this up now. So what it says is export path, and that's where we've just installed Go. So export path equals $path colon /usr/local/go/bin. Right, so that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm just going to copy and paste that in rather than type it. So I'm just going to copy, paste, yes. Now that's updated. The changes haven't taken effect, so we need to update. So we just do a source bash rc. And if we do Go version, Go version 1.24. So now we've got Go installed. So you could actually just, if you was a Go developer, you can now set stuff up essentially. And I think we'll leave that there. So just to recap, what we've done is we've enabled the contrib and non-free repositories, installed multi-arch so we could get Steam working. Though we're not going to be using Steam, so I'll probably uninstall that after I finish this video. We installed VSCode, set up Node, and set up Go. And so I think we'll leave the video there. So goodbye.